As I settle into the quiet of my own breath, I imagine myself floating through a darkness so gentle and so wide that it feels more like a warm, open room than an empty void. The universe stretches around me with a softness that calms every part of my mind. There is no sound out here, no rush of motion, no sudden change. Everything moves slowly, so slowly that the universe itself seems to breathe in a long, peaceful rhythm. When I think about how space expands, I do not picture an explosion or a burst of force. Instead, I imagine something tender and gradual, like a fabric being stretched one quiet thread at a time. The expansion of the universe is one of the most soothing truths I know. It unfolds with patience, with quiet persistence, with a gentleness that has lasted nearly 14 billion years. This expansion is not something we feel in any dramatic way. It is more like a soft drift that gently guides galaxies apart, a motion so slow that even if we watched for thousands of years, the change would feel like the shifting of a shadow along a wall at dusk. Thinking about this helps me relax, because it reminds me that the cosmos does not hurry. It unfolds in its own time, allowing everything to happen at a pace that invites rest, reflection, and stillness. In the earliest moments of existence, long before stars and planets took shape, the universe was filled with a warm glow that spread evenly in all directions. I imagine that glow as something comforting rather than intense, a soft, uniform light, like the dim warmth of a lantern seen through half-closed eyes. There were no forms yet, no patterns, no structures, only a calm sea of energy that filled the whole of space. It brings me peace to picture the universe when it was so young and so simple, resting in an almost perfect balance. As time passed, the universe cooled gently, the way a warm day slowly slips into a mild evening. That cooling did not happen quickly or with any kind of drama. It happened slowly, steadily, like a long exhale stretched across billions of years. And within that cooling, tiny ripples began to appear, soft variations in the density of the early universe. These ripples were incredibly small, far too subtle for any chaos or noise. Yet they held the seeds of everything that would one day become galaxies, stars, and planets. To imagine that everything familiar began as these gentle ripples makes the universe feel more patient, more kind, more peaceful than I ever expected. It shows me that even the grandest creations can arise from the quietest beginnings, even today. The universe holds a tender memory of those early moments. A faint afterglow known as the cosmic microwave background still fills all of space. A soft whisper of warmth left from the dawn of time. It is not bright. It is not loud. It does not shine like the stars. Instead, it rests across the sky as a gentle, even glow, so calm and so quiet that only sensitive instruments can detect it. I like to think of it as the universe's oldest lullaby, still humming softly, still comforting the cosmos in its own subtle way. This afterglow tells us that the universe has carried its earliest light forward for nearly 14 billion years, not as a dramatic reminder, but as a soothing, steady presence. When I imagine that soft glow stretched across the entire sky, I feel the same kind of comfort that comes from a warm blanket or a long, slow breath. It reminds me that the universe does not forget its past. It holds it gently, allowing the oldest light to drift quietly through the deep night. As I drift deeper into these thoughts, I picture the galaxies themselves floating through space. Each one is a calm swirl of stars, drifting with a patience that matches the slow expansion of the universe. Even though galaxies move through space at speeds that would seem impossibly fast in our everyday world, The scale of the cosmos is so vast that their motion feels peaceful, unhurried, almost meditative. Our own Milky Way, with its elegant spiral arms and dust-soft lanes of starlight, glides through space with a kind of effortless grace. The stars within it, including the quiet glow of our sun, take hundreds of millions of years to complete a single orbit around the galaxy's center. That means that every star is part of a long, gentle journey, drifting across cosmic distances with no sense of urgency at all. When I imagine myself looking down on this slow spiral from above, I see something like a cosmic tide, rising and falling in patterns too vast for any single lifetime to witness. Yet even though these motions are incredibly slow, they create shapes of extraordinary soft arcs, gentle curves, drifting currents of light. Stars, to embody the slow patience of the universe, they are not born suddenly, but through millions of years of quiet gathering. Clouds of gas and dust come together under the gentle pull of gravity, contracting little by little, warming slowly until a soft glow begins to bloom at their center. When a star finally lights up, it shines with a steady, comforting radiance. Stars do not flicker with stress or flame wildly from moment to moment. They burn with calm consistency, often for billions of years. Our sun, for example, has been shining gently for more than 4 billion years, and it will continue to shine with nearly the same quiet brilliance for billions more. Thinking of this brings a sense of stability to my mind. The sun rises and sets in peaceful repetition, offering warmth and light in a rhythm more ancient and more dependable than anything humanity has ever created. It is a reminder that nature can be steady, soft, and soothing, even on the scale of stars. Beyond the stars, vast stretches of space rest in a peaceful hush. These areas may appear empty, but they are filled with thin, gentle clouds of gas and dust drifting slowly across the dark. These clouds move so quietly that their shapes hardly change across millions of years. They form delicate structures, filaments, wisps, shapes that resemble faint brushstrokes on a canvas of night. Sometimes, gravity nudges these clouds inward, beginning the long, slow process that leads to star formation. But even then, the change is gentle, like watching a flower bud gradually tighten before slowly preparing to bloom. There is no rush in the life of a cloud, no sudden leaps or jolts, only the patient drifting of material that has existed for billions of years. Farther out, galaxies gather into clusters, vast communities of stars connected by the soft pull of gravity. These clusters form even larger structures, woven together into a grand cosmic web that stretches across space in delicate threads. These threads, though massive beyond comprehension, are shaped by the same slow, steady forces that guide everything else. Gravity does not shout. It whispers. It tugs gently across unimaginable distances, shaping the universe like a sculptor who moves with infinite patience. The result is a structure so peaceful in its vastness that imagining it feels like exploring a dream's glow, quiet and deeply serene. Light itself moves through this quiet universe with steady purpose. Every photon begins its journey at the heart of a star or a glowing cloud, then travels outward, drifting through the dark for thousands, millions, or even billions of years. Light never rushes. It moves at the same calm, constant pace, no matter how long the journey. I like to imagine each beam of light as a tiny, peaceful traveler, gliding silently across the universe until it reaches a distant world or the waiting mirror of a telescope. Even the starlight we see at night has been traveling for ages, carrying with it the gentle story of where it came from. When I look at the night sky, I feel connected to those long, quiet journeys, as though each beam of light is a soft thread linking us to a universe filled with tranquil motion and ancient calm. All of these images, the slow expansion of space, the early warmth of the cosmic glow, the drifting of galaxies, the steady burn of stars, the quiet movement of clouds, the gentle pull of gravity, and the patient journey of light come together in my mind like layers of a peaceful melody. Each part blends softly with the others, creating a sense of calm that settles deep inside me. The universe, with its vastness and its age, does not hurry. It unfolds in quiet stretches, in soft transformations, in movements so slow that they almost feel still. And as I imagine myself drifting through this peaceful expanse, I feel a steady comfort, knowing that the cosmos itself is shaped by patience, by subtlety, and by quiet rhythms that encourage rest. There are nights when I imagine myself drifting toward the outer edges of a galaxy, to a place where the familiar swirl of stars begins to thin, and the soft glow of starlight stretches into a delicate haze. As I travel there in my mind, the feeling changes from the gentle motion of the inner spiral to something quieter, something more spacious, almost like walking from a warm, softly lit room into a peaceful open field just before dawn. The edges of galaxies feel like that to me, broad, quiet spaces where the light grows faint, where the rhythm of stars spreads out, and where everything seems to pause in a long and comforting stillness. When I picture myself resting along these galactic shores, I feel as though I have reached a place where the universe has slowed its steps, where it settles into a steady calm that asks for nothing except that I breathe gently and let my thoughts drift out near these edges. Stars become fewer, not because anything has pushed them away, but because the galaxy simply runs out of the dense material that shapes the clustered brightness of its inner regions. In these outer zones, the stars seem to float with a kind of ease, unhurried and widely spaced, like distant lanterns hanging in a silent, open sky. Each star moves in its own quiet orbit around the galactic center, but the distance between them is so great that their motions feel more like isolated glides than the communal dance occurring closer in. The faint scattering of starlight here reminds me of grains of sand along a quiet beach at night, each grain resting where it has drifted, spread across a wide landscape. There is a gentleness in this sparsity, in the way the stars appear almost shy at the edge, shining without urgency, without competition, simply existing in calm, spacious solitude. As I wander in thought through this quiet region, I begin to feel the difference between the bustling core of a galaxy and the serenity found at its outer boundaries. Near the center, stars crowd close, circling rapidly in an energetic but stable swirl, almost like a lively city glowing at night. But along the outskirts, everything slows. The pull of gravity is softer, the light more subtle, the patterns more delicate. It feels like stepping away from noise into an open countryside where sound has room to drift and disperse. Even the motion of the galaxy here becomes less defined. Stars still orbit, but the outer material sometimes forms faint tidal streams, gentle arcs of stars and dust stretched out by interactions with nearby galaxies. These streams are like soft trails left behind by a passing breeze, their shapes quiet reminders of past encounters that took place over hundreds of millions of years. They remain suspended in space like long, graceful brushstrokes painted across the dark. Sometimes when galaxies pass near each other, their gravity reaches out like two calm hands meeting in the air. Instead of colliding violently, they tug gently, reshaping each other's outer layers. These interactions unfold slowly, so slowly that even if we watched for thousands of years, the changes would seem nearly motionless. And yet, across countless generations of stars, these encounters create patterns that resemble faint bridges, soft arcs, and broad, diffused halos. When I imagine observing these from the quiet edge of a galaxy, it feels like watching clouds stretch across a still sky. There is no rush in these transformations, just a steady unfolding of shape over unimaginable time as I drift farther into the outskirts in my thoughts. I notice how the interstellar medium becomes whisper light. The gas here is so thin that it would feel like emptiness, yet it still forms a subtle presence spread across wide distances. If I imagine reaching out a hand while floating through this space, I feel nothing against my skin, yet I sense the delicate traces of hydrogen drifting quietly in all directions. These faint gases are the remnants of older eras, spread out slowly by stellar winds, supernova, and gentle gravitational tides. Over billions of years, this material stretches outward until it reaches the farthest boundaries of the galaxy, where it becomes so diffuse that it almost disappears into the calm darkness between galaxies. Thinking of this thin gas drifting softly makes me feel as though I'm surrounded by a quiet veil, something almost too light to notice, yet always present. I sometimes picture the dark matter halo that surrounds a galaxy as a kind of invisible cushion, a gentle embrace holding everything together. This halo does not glow or shine. It exists in silence, shaping the motions of stars in ways we can observe but cannot touch. Imagining it brings a sense of comfort, as though the galaxy rests inside a soft and supportive presence. Dark matter's influence is one of the most tranquil facts I know. It does not push or pull harshly, but instead provides a broad, calming structure that allows galaxies to rotate with a grace that would otherwise be impossible. Thinking of this halo reminds me of the quiet support that exists in many parts of life forces we cannot see, but that gives shape, balance, and stability to everything around them at the galactic edges. The night grows darker than in any place closer to the center. With fewer stars close by, the sky opens into deeper, smoother shades of black, a darkness that feels soft rather than empty. But scattered against that deep background, I see thousands of distant galaxies, tiny smudges of light, faint glimmers, quiet blurs that hover like distant dreams. These faraway galaxies appear motionless to the eye, but each one is a vast world of stars, moving in patterns as slow and soothing as the one I am drifting through. When I imagine observing them from the calm outskirts of my own galaxy, I feel as though I am looking across an ocean at the dim lights of villages on a faraway shore. They seem impossibly distant, yet gently present, offering a quiet reminder that the universe stretches far beyond any one place. Drifting near these edges brings a sense of perspective that feels peaceful to hold. From here, the galaxy seems both immense and fragile, an island of light floating in a sea of darkness. The stars that make up the bright spiral arms can be seen in their full, sweeping shapes, their gentle curves stretching outward before fading into the misty boundary where light meets silence. This view feels calming because it reveals the galaxy not as a chaotic storm of stars, but as a quiet, stable structure shaped over countless eras. The spiral arms appear like long, graceful paths winding through space, their movements slow and smooth, like the gentle turning of a wheel. I imagine myself resting along one of these arms, following its curve with my eyes as it stretches into the distance. Here, the faint glow of interstellar dust creates soft patches of shadow, not dark enough to obscure the stars entirely, but enough to give the galaxy texture, depth, and a sense of quiet complexity. These dust lanes, drifting slowly through space, add a soft, cloud-like quality to the outskirts. They filter starlight in delicate ways, turning it into gentle gradients instead of sharp beams. When I imagine floating near one of these dust clouds, I picture the faint glow of distant stars shining through them like light passing through thin curtains. Everything appears muted, softened, and hushed, adding to the peaceful atmosphere of these galactic boundaries. As I let my thoughts remain here, I begin to picture the enormous distances stretching outward. Beyond the last traces of starlight, dark space continues in all directions, filled with silence that has lasted since before any star was born. Yet this silence doesn't feel empty to me. It feels like a quiet invitation to rest. The calm between galaxies is one of the most peaceful environments I can imagine, free from noise, free from pressure, free from the constant motion we associate with life. Out there, the universe expands gently, and galaxies drift apart with the slow patience of icebergs on a still sea. There is no conflict in this motion, no urgency, only a gradual widening of space that unfolds with the steadiness of a long, dreamlike sigh. When I take in all these impressions together, the sparse stars, the drifting gas, the faint tidal streams, the deep darkness, the distant galaxies shimmering like threads of silver, I feel a deep and quiet calm settling around me. The edges of a galaxy feel like a place where the universe pauses, where it allows itself to breathe, where its movements become so soft that they feel like stillness. Imagining myself resting here makes my own thoughts feel lighter, slower, and quieter, as though the peaceful rhythm of the cosmos has reached into my mind and smoothed it gently. There are moments, especially in the quiet stretch of night, when everything feels still, when I like to imagine myself drifting through a gentle ocean made not of water, but of light that has traveled across such vast distances and such immense stretches of time that it feels older than any memory I could possibly hold. This ancient light moves with a softness that never falters, a steady, unwavering pace that has carried it from one corner of the universe to another. Long before I was born, long before the earth even formed, long before the sun began to shine. When I close my eyes, I picture myself floating through this faint glow, surrounded by threads of brightness that drift like quiet whispers. It comforts me to imagine that every corner of the universe, no matter how distant or dark, has been touched at some point by light that has traveled far longer than any journey I could ever take. This light is ancient, yet it moves with a calm so serene that it feels almost new, as though time has softened it instead of wearing it down. Ancient light does not rush. It begins deep within stars, within core so dense and warm that atoms press together in a slow, steady rhythm. Inside these stars, light is born not as a burst, but as a patient bloom. Photons spend thousands, or even millions of years, making their way from the center of a star to its surface, bouncing gently from particle to particle in a long, wandering path. By the time they finally emerge, they have already taken a journey far longer than any human lifetime. Yet even after that long climb, the moment they reach open space, they begin another journey that stretches across the empty darkness with a quiet confidence. Knowing this fills me with a sense of ease, because it reminds me that even the most beautiful forms of energy move slowly, taking their time through every step. When I imagine these photons leaving their stars, I see them drifting into the cosmic sea like tiny lanterns, each one carrying a memory of the place it came from. Some travel from nearby stars in our own Milky Way, reaching Earth after tens, hundreds, or thousands of years. Others begin their journey in stars so distant that their light will travel across billions of years before it touches anything again. And some ancient beams of light come from moments so close to the beginning of the universe that they were set free when the cosmos was still young, still forming patterns, still cooling and settling into the peaceful structure it holds today. These ancient photons, part of the cosmic microwave background, move through space in a quiet, even blanket. I imagine them as the universe's earliest breath, still gently exhaled into the farthest reaches of the night. The thing that moves me most about ancient light is its endurance. It does not tire. It does not dim from weariness. It simply keeps going, following the soft, straight path carved by the shape of space-time itself. Even when gravity bends it, the bending feels gentle, like a soft curve in a slow river. Light adapts without protest, gliding along the contours of the universe as though it understands them intimately. This calm journey gives me comfort because it shows me that movement does not always need force or struggle. Some paths unfold naturally, smoothly, quietly, with no need for rush. Light reminds me that progress can be gentle and still reach distances beyond imagination. As I let my thoughts wander, I picture what it might feel like to travel beside one of these ancient beams. I imagine drifting through space with no sense of weight, no sound, no pressure. Just a quiet companionship with something that has been traveling since long before the first. Galaxies formed their spiraling shapes. I picture stars passing slowly in the distance, their soft glow merging into the surrounding dark. Nebulae would appear as faint, misty clouds, delicate folds of color drifting in silence. The journey would be long, but it wouldn't feel long. It would feel steady, continuous, like a deep and unbroken breath that stretches through time itself. Sometimes, I imagine this ancient light passing by worlds that have never known life, drifting across planets covered in ice, or circling stars that will burn out before their light ever reaches another place. Yet the photons continue their journey without hesitation. They do not turn back. They do not falter. They simply move forward because that is their nature, to travel, to illuminate, to carry gentle echoes of their origins. This gives me a sense of peace because it shows me that even the simplest movements in the universe hold meaning. Even if no one witnesses them, light does not need to be seen to continue its path. It simply exists, patiently moving through the quiet, carrying countless stories that may never be heard. There are also moments when ancient light reveals the past in ways nothing else can. When we look at distant galaxies, we are not seeing them as they are now, but as they were when their light first began its long journey toward us. Some of the galaxies we observe today might no longer exist in the same form. They may have merged with others or drifted into new shapes. Yet the light they once released still reaches us, intact, unhurried, shining with the memory of a time long gone. This gentle, time-traveling quality of light feels soothing to me because it shows that moments do not disappear completely. They move outward, slowly, softly, lingering in the universe as quiet reminders of what once was. Even the faintest specks of ancient starlight tell a story. A single photon might have traveled across the emptiest regions of space, passing through areas where galaxies do not form, where dust is too thin to gather, where dark matter stretches quietly without motion. These vast cosmic voids may seem silent, but when light passes through them, they become tranquil corridors through which ancient energy flows with perfect ease. I imagine these corridors as long, peaceful hallways where nothing disturbs the lights, journey, not storms, not dust, not the pull of nearby galaxies, just a smooth path that stretches uninterrupted for billions of years. In imagining these distances, I feel my own worries stretched thin, softened by perspective, made smaller by the gentle enormity of space. There is something deeply calming in the idea that the universe is filled with light we have not yet seen. Beams that left their stars millions or billions of years ago are still traveling toward us. Their arrival a certainty that requires nothing from us but time. There are stars whose light will reach Earth long after everyone alive today is gone. Light that will drift across the galaxy in silence until the moment it touches a new pair of eyes. This thought brings me a sense of comfort, knowing that the universe continues to offer new gentle wonders far into the future. Ancient light has another quiet quality. It fills space evenly, without choosing where to shine. Even in the darkest regions, some amount of faint glow persists. It may not be bright enough to see without instruments, but it is there, resting softly in the fabric of space. This gentle presence of light everywhere makes the universe feel less empty, more compassionate in a way. It tells me that no matter how far one travels, no matter how deep into the darkness one goes, there is always a soft touch of illumination waiting, even if faint, even if distant, even if almost invisible. And that thought alone feels enough to bring peace. As I let myself drift deeper into this mental journey, I imagine the universe not as a cold expanse, but as a quiet sanctuary where light continues to wander endlessly. Some beams pass through the same region of space for the first time in billions of years, brushing softly against nothing but silence. Others weave through galaxies, slipping between stars, passing the gentle glow of nebulas that pulse with new forms of light. Still others travel close to massive objects, curving gently around them in graceful arcs. All these paths feel serene to imagine, all of them moving with the same patient pace. In the end, the thing I find most soothing about ancient light is its quiet certainty. It does not wonder where it is going. It does not hurry to arrive. It does not lose purpose when no one sees it. It simply travels, steadily, gently, continuing its soft journey as the universe expands around it. And when I imagine myself drifting beside it, letting its calm rhythm guide my thoughts, I feel the same gentle certainty settling within me. I feel as though I, too, am allowed to move slowly, to breathe softly, to take my time in the quiet spaces of life. There is a certain softness that settles over me whenever I let my thoughts drift toward the gentle presence of nebulae. Those vast and delicate clouds of dust and gas that float through our galaxy like unhurried breaths. When I picture them, I imagine long stretches of space filled with faint, glowing wisps that curl and unfold as though they are moving not through emptiness, but through something warm and fluid. Even though nebulae span light years across, stretching wider than entire star systems, their motion feels slow and quiet. The kind of movement that happens over thousands of centuries yet appears weightless and effortless. There is comfort in knowing that these clouds, which serve as the birthplaces of stars, do not rush their transformations. Instead, they drift in a patient rhythm, shaped gently by gravity, warmed softly by starlight, and stirred only by the faintest currents of cosmic energy. Whenever I imagine myself floating alongside one, I feel as though I've stepped into a place where time has loosened its grip, where everything moves with the same easy grace as a long, deep exhale. Nebulae form in many ways, yet each type carries a kind of calm beauty that feels soothing just to picture. Some are remnants of ancient stars that release their outer layers in slow, expanding waves, leaving behind shells of gas that glow faintly under the influence of a new central star. Others are cold, dark accumulations of dust that block the light behind them, forming soft shadows across the galaxy like drifting curtains. And still others are glowing regions where new stars are quietly gathering their strength, slowly condensing as gravity draws dust and gas into gentle spirals. In all of these forms, nebulae invite a sense of stillness. They remind me that creation does not always begin with noise or force. Sometimes it begins with a soft gathering, a quiet thickening of material, a place where particles drift closer in a patient embrace. I like to imagine that if I were close enough, I would feel a faint hush the way one feels at the edge of a peaceful forest, where every sound blends into a soft background quiet. If I imagine myself drifting deeper into one of these clouds, I picture the light around me becoming muted, filtered through delicate grains of dust that scatter the glow of distant stars. The brightness wouldn't be sharp or sudden. Instead, it would have a gentle, hazy quality, as if every color had been softened by distance, slowed into a tender blend. Nebulae often appear colorful in images, with hues of red, pink, blue, or violet, but those colors are not bold or harsh. They are the result of atoms releasing soft glimmers of light after being warmed by nearby stars. This glow is faint, almost shy, spreading across immense distances with a peaceful consistency. Thinking about that soft radiation always makes me breathe a little slower, as though the calm rhythm of the nebula is influencing my own. One of the most soothing things about nebulae is the way they seem suspended in balance. They are influenced by gravity, yes, and by the radiation of stars, and by the subtle motions of gas drifting through the galaxy. But none of these forces feel violent when I imagine them. Instead, they feel like gentle tides, slow pushes and pulls that guide the nebula's shape over long stretches of time. Even when a nebula is created from the remains of a star that released its outer layers, the expansion of its gas doesn't feel like an explosion when considered across the span of thousands of years. It feels like a gradual unfolding, like petals drifting open not all at once, but in a long, unhurried sequence that stretches across ages. There is a peacefulness in that scale, a soothing reminder that even the grandest transformations in the universe can happen with soft, incremental change. Sometimes I think about the places within nebulae where new stars begin to take shape. These regions are cold and dense, areas where dust and gas gently gather until they become heavy enough for gravity to draw them inward. Over time, these centers grow warmer, then brighter, then slowly begin to glow. The beginnings of a star are not loud or sudden. They are quiet, deep, and patient. It is only after long periods, far longer than any human lifetime, that the new star shines, brightly enough to illuminate its surroundings. When I imagine this process, it feels like watching a dim ember slowly warm into a tiny flame, each moment subtle, each change nearly imperceptible, yet each step bringing new light into the universe. I find it calming to know that such immense beauty can form through such steady and gradual steps, and that even in the coldest regions of space, warmth can slowly blossom over time. And then there are planetary nebulae, which to me feel like some of the most serene shapes in the cosmos. These are the delicate shells that form when aging stars quietly release their outer layers, leaving behind expanding rings or bubbles of gas that float outward in a soft, luminous haze. They are not chaotic or fierce in their formation. Instead, They represent a gentle transition, a star letting go of what it no longer needs in a calm, drifting release. The shapes they form, circles, ovals, soft spirals, look like peaceful brushstrokes across the sky. They remind me of lanterns glowing softly in a quiet night, suspended by nothing but stillness itself. When I picture one of these nebulae overhead, I imagine a slow pulse of light spreading gently across the cloud, illuminating it from within in a way that feels steady and grounding. There are also reflection nebulae, which glow not because they emit their own light, but because they gently scatter the light of nearby stars. These nebulae feel especially calming to me because their brightness is soft, borrowed, diffused into a gentle shimmer. The thought of that faint, scattered glow feels like the cosmic equivalent of moonlight drifting across water, quiet, reflective, never harsh. It makes me think about how, even in the vastness of space, light finds ways to soften itself, to spread gently into places where it would otherwise be lost. Reflection nebulae seem to hold a peaceful message, that illumination can be subtle and still reach far. Dark nebulae, too, carry their own quiet beauty. These clouds block the starlight behind them, forming soft silhouettes across the sky. At first glance, they might seem empty, but in reality, they are some of the densest, richest regions of material in the galaxy. They are nurseries waiting to form stars, places where silence gathers before creation begins. I find something deeply comforting in the idea that even the darkest patches of space are full of potential, holding within them the soft, unspoken beginnings of light. They are reminders that absence is often just a quiet stage of becoming, a calm pause before a gentle unfolding. When I imagine drifting through a nebula, I picture myself moving slowly, without weight, surrounded by the quiet hum of cosmic dust settling and drifting in all directions. There would be no wind, no sound, just a serene feeling of floating through a world made of soft texture and gentle illumination. Stars would appear as distant glimmers behind the cloud, softened by the haze. The layers of dust and gas would shift in slow patterns, shaped by subtle movements of energy that feel more like breaths than motions. And in this quiet environment, everything would feel unhurried. Thoughts would stretch out comfortably. Tension would loosen. Even the vast distances would feel manageable, because every direction would be filled with the same patient, drifting calm in this quiet mental space. I find myself thinking about how nebulae are scattered across the galaxy like resting places for the eye. Soft patches of color and gentle forms drifting between the brighter, sharper light of stars. They feel like interludes, like pauses in the cosmic landscape that allow the mind to slow down and wander without pressure. The idea that our galaxy holds countless of these calm regions brings me comfort. It makes the universe feel more welcoming, more serene, as though it contains endless pockets of quiet where one can simply drift and breathe. There is a quiet comfort in imagining distant galaxies not as swirling storms or roaring engines of cosmic energy, but as gentle gatherings of countless stars, each one moving patiently along its path, guided by gravity that works so softly across unimaginable distances. When I let my thoughts drift toward these vast island universes scattered throughout the cosmos, I feel as though I am watching the slow, peaceful turning of something ancient and graceful. Even though galaxies contain billions, sometimes trillions, of stars, their overall motion feels calm, like an enormous wheel turning so slowly that its rotation is more a feeling than a movement. In the stillness of the night, when the world around me is quiet, imagining these great structures drifting through the universe with such gentle persistence fills me with a sense of deep steady ease. Each galaxy has its own shape, its own rhythm, its own subtle way of existing. Spiral galaxies, with their soft arms curling outward like delicate ribbons, always feel to me like quiet dancers moving through a darkened room. Their spirals are not rigid or sharp, but smooth, relaxed curves shaped by stars and dust drifting in a patient orbit around a calm center. When I imagine floating far above one of these galaxies, looking down at its soft, glowing disk, I picture a faint shimmer of starlight spreading out from billions of tiny suns, each one shining gently into the warm darkness. The arms do not twist in fierce spirals. Instead, they extend like open hands, relaxed and unhurried, carrying with them the gentle glow of countless worlds. And at the center, where gravity holds the galaxy's rhythm together, there is a quiet concentration of lighter warmth, steady core that anchors everything around it. Elliptical galaxies have a different kind of calmness. They do not form grand spirals or sweeping arms. Instead, they glow like softly rounded clouds of stars, their shapes smooth and even, like a pebble polished by endless tides. These galaxies often form when others come together over long periods of time, not through chaos, but through slow merging, where stars settle into new orbits and the combined shape becomes more tranquil than before. I find something soothing in this idea that even when galaxies meet and blend, the result can be something round, harmonious, and peaceful. There is no rush in their formation, no sudden burst of activity, at least not on human timescales. Just a gradual rearranging that eventually settles into a calm, even glow. Irregular galaxies, with their soft scatterings of stars and drifting clouds of gas, feel to me like quiet sketches shapes that are still deciding what they want to become. They do not follow strict patterns or symmetrical designs. Instead, they drift in gentle disarray, their stars spread in ways that feel almost playful. And yet, even in this looseness, there is a soft harmony. Their shapes may not be organized, but they are not chaotic either. They simply exist in a natural, unforced way, like scattered leaves resting where the breeze has placed them. Their presence in the universe reminds me that not everything needs a defined structure to feel peaceful. Sometimes, a relaxed randomness can be just as calming as a perfect pattern. When I imagine galaxies moving through the cosmos, the word moving feels inadequate, because their motion is too slow and too smooth to resemble anything like travel as we know it. Instead, they drift through space in a kind of quiet glide, carried by the expansion of the universe itself. They are like boats on an immeasurable sea, separated by vast distances, yet sharing the same gentle outward flow. Even when two galaxies begin to approach one another, drawn by the faint pull of gravity across millions of light years, their motion feels like a slow, inevitable convergence, something so gradual that entire civilizations could rise and fall without noticing the slightest shift. This gentle pacing is part of what makes the thought of galaxies so soothing. The universe is full of movement, but almost all of it happens with a softness that surpasses anything we might expect. The gravitational pull that holds galaxies together works with a patience that spans billions of years. Stars orbit the center not because they are pushed or pulled abruptly, but because gravity creates a smooth, continuous curve for them to follow. Each star moves as though tracing a quiet path laid out long before it was born. The orbits of stars do not feel tight or rushed. Instead, they take their time, completing one slow rotation around the galaxy over periods that stretch far beyond human comprehension. To imagine a star making a full orbit one that might take hundreds of millions of years is to imagine a kind of movement so gentle, so extended, that it becomes almost meditative. It reminds me that even the most complex systems in the cosmos can function with calm, steady rhythms. There is also a deep tranquility in knowing that most galaxies are surrounded by halos of dark matter, an invisible substance that provides a quiet, stabilizing presence. Though we cannot see it, its influence is gentle and constant, shaping the motions of stars in a way that feels balanced and harmonious. When I think of dark matter halos, I imagine them as soft, invisible cushions surrounding each galaxy, providing support and structure without ever revealing themselves directly. This hidden calm adds to the sense of serenity that galaxies evoke, as though each one moves through the universe, cradled by something steady and unseen, far away from the bright centers of galaxies, where stars become sparser and space grows wide and open. There is a peacefulness that feels almost infinite. These outer regions are not empty. They are simply quiet. Stars move here with even less haste, following orbits that carry them through vast stretches of gentle darkness. Sometimes I imagine myself drifting at the edge of a galaxy, looking inward at the faint glow of billions of suns. The light would be soft from this distance, not overwhelming, but warm like the quiet glow of a distant city seen from a mountaintop at night. The calmness of such a scene feels deeply grounding, as though the entire universe is whispering its ancient, steady rhythm. Between galaxies, the distances stretch into immense, silent expanses. Yet even here, faint trails of gas drift like thin, gentle threads connecting one island universe to another. Galaxies occasionally pass close enough that their outer regions touch, exchanging soft streams of starlight and dust. These interactions do not feel violent when imagined on cosmic timescales. Instead, they resemble slow currents meeting on a quiet sea, merging and parting with barely perceptible motion. Over hundreds of millions of years, two galaxies might gradually spiral toward one another, not with force or collision, but with a long, unhurried embrace that eventually forms a new, unified shape. This idea that even great cosmic meetings can be gentle brings a sense of peace to my thoughts. Clusters of galaxies form even larger, softer patterns. Though they contain dozens or hundreds of galaxies, the overall structure feels balanced, like a quiet community spread across the sky. Each galaxy keeps its own rhythm, its own gentle motion, yet together they form a wider pattern that feels calm and cohesive. The space between them is filled with faint warmth from thin gas, a kind of soft background glow that stretches across millions of light years. To imagine drifting through a galaxy cluster is to imagine moving through a vast, tranquil neighborhood of distant lights, each one peaceful in its own way, each one contributing to a larger sense of cosmic composure. Superclusters, which are enormous webs of galaxy clusters woven together, extend this serenity even further. Their structure forms soft, branching patterns across the universe, creating a shape that resembles a quiet, sprawling network of light. The galaxies within them drift apart not from haste, but from the slow expansion of space. Everything moves gently outward, like ripples widening in a calm pond. This expansion has no pressure or urgency. It is simply the universe breathing, stretching slowly in all directions with a rhythm that has continued since its earliest moments. One of the most comforting thoughts about distant galaxies is the fact that the light we see from them began its journey millions or billions of years ago. When I look at images of them, I find it soothing to remember that what I'm seeing is the soft glow of moments long past. These galaxies may have changed, shifted, or grown since that light left them. But the light itself carries a peaceful message across time, a quiet memory preserved in the vastness of space. It reminds me that the universe is full of gentle echoes, full of ancient murmurs still drifting through the darkness with patience and ease. Even the shapes. Galaxies form on large scales long filaments. Soft walls and open voids feel like calm patterns stitched across the cosmos. The voids, though wide and dark, are not empty in a lonely way. They are spacious, restful regions where galaxies drift at the edges like dim lanterns around a quiet clearing, and the filaments, stretching endlessly across space, feel like delicate threads weaving galaxies into a soft, cosmic fabric. Knowing that the universe forms such serene patterns makes its vastness feel less overwhelming, more like a peaceful expanse meant to be explored slowly and without hurry. When I imagine myself floating through all of this past spirals, through clusters, along filaments of distant starlight, feel a sense of calm settling over me. Each galaxy becomes a gentle beacon, shining steadily across time. Each one turns slowly, held by gravity that never rushes. Each one drifts through space with a quiet grace that feels grounding, comforting, and deeply relaxing. And in this vast, serene landscape, I feel small in a way that is peaceful rather than frightening. The calmness of the galaxies reminds me that even the largest structures in the universe move at a tranquil pace, and that there is room for slow, steady rhythms in all things. There is a gentle kind of calm that settles over my mind whenever I allow myself to picture the quiet presence of cosmic dust drifting through the vastness of space. These tiny, delicate particles moving with a softness so unhurried that their motion almost feels like stillness, as though they exist in a peaceful suspension rather than traveling anywhere at all. Even though each grain of cosmic dust is unimaginably small, far smaller than a grain of sand, smaller even than many specks of smoke drifting through air on Earth, the sheer number of them spread throughout the universe creates soft patterns that sway and shift in ways that feel quietly rhythmic. When I imagine myself floating in the midst of these tiny particles, I picture them glimmering faintly as they catch distant starlight, each one reflecting only the smallest hint of brightness, just enough to give the surrounding darkness a velvety glow. Cosmic dust does not shine with its own light. Instead, it softly scatters the light around it, making the emptiness of space feel a little warmer, a little gentler, a little less like a void and more like a place that breathes slowly and calmly in every direction. Thinking about these dust grains gives me a sense of ease because their presence reminds me that even the smallest, quietest things can shape the universe in ways that are both subtle and deeply comforting. Cosmic dust forms in many different ways across the universe, but none of its origins are loud or sudden when imagined through the long, dreamy lens of cosmic time. Some particles begin inside stars, where heavier elements are formed, and when these stars gently release their outer layers during their final phases of life, tiny grains condense from the cooling gases and drift outward into space. Other particles appear slowly in the cold regions between stars, growing bit by bit as simple molecules settle together, building themselves into delicate structures that might travel for millions of years before ever encountering another object. When stars form, some dust grains are pulled inward, joining the spinning disks of material that surround young suns, while others remain just outside the edges, drifting freely like tiny seeds carried by breezes in a vast, quiet field. Even when dust is created from the remnants of stars that have ended their lives long ago, the spreading of this material feels soft on cosmic scales. No sudden rush, no jarring burst, just a slow and steady expansion that unfolds quietly over long ages, like a breath slowly released. The universe may be incredibly large, but cosmic dust fills it with a gentle texture, making every region feel connected by the same soft, drifting presence. When I picture cosmic dust more closely, I imagine the incredible variety hidden within these tiny grains. Some are made of carbon-rich material, dark and smooth, absorbing light in a way that makes them feel like small pieces of shadow. Others are silicate grains that reflect faint hints of brightness, like tiny crystals resting in the quiet dark. Some contain ice, forming delicate coatings of frozen water, ammonia, or methane that shimmer softly if touched by distant starlight. On Earth, dust might seem simple or even bothersome, but in space, dust is a quiet storyteller. It carries within it elements that were once part of ancient stars, memories of places far older than anything we can easily imagine. Drifting slowly through space long after their sources have faded away. These grains may travel for millions or billions of years before settling anywhere, passing through nebulae, brushing the edges of star systems, or floating through the wide, calm stretches between galaxies. Their journey is not purposeful, not directed, not forced in any way. It is simply gentle movement, guided by the softest forces: radiation pressure, gravitational pulls, the faint nudge of starlight, all working together to carry these tiny particles across enormous distances. One of the most soothing thoughts about cosmic dust is the way it interacts with light. Dust can scatter starlight in ways that create some of the universe's most peaceful displays, softening bright light into hazy glows that spread through nebulae like watered-down colors in a quiet painting. In regions where dust is dense, the starlight becomes muted, filtered through layers of tiny grains that turn sharp brightness into a gentle, velvety dimness. Reflection nebulae, where dust softly scatters the light of nearby stars, glow with a bluish tint that feels calm and airy, like faint mist illuminated on a quiet morning. These nebulae do not shine fiercely. Instead, they shimmer with a delicate radiance that seems to move in slow motion. Every time the starlight touches a grain of dust, it is softened, spread out, made more peaceful. Even in places where dust forms dark clouds that block light entirely, the effect feels restful rather than harsh. These dark patches create quiet silhouettes across bright star fields, giving the universe areas of shade that feel like natural, calming pauses in an endless sea of glowing points. Dust also plays a gentle, patient role in the formation of stars and planets. When clouds of dust and gas drift together under the soft pull of gravity, they gradually collect into thicker patches, forming the first hints of new stellar nurseries. The dust helps cool these regions by absorbing and releasing faint glimmers of heat, allowing the gas within them to settle more closely together. Over long periods, these regions grow denser until new stars begin to form deep within. The dust around them gathers into disks that spin slowly, quietly, as though preparing the materials needed for future planets, moons, and comets. To think that worlds begin from such gentle particles feels comforting, as if the universe builds its most complex wonders not from sudden force but from the slow, steady cooperation of countless tiny grains drifting together over time. The creation of planets is not rushed. Instead, those early dust particles meet one another gradually, adhering lightly, forming small clusters that grow into pebbles and eventually into larger structures. This process unfolds so slowly that it spans millions of years, but imagining it brings me a sense of calm, because it reveals that even the grandest structures begin with the softest beginnings. There is also something deeply peaceful about the way cosmic dust fills the space between stars and galaxies, with a quiet presence that is almost invisible. In the vast, open stretches of interstellar space, dust forms thin, gentle trails, drifting like delicate threads woven into the darkness. These trails are not dense enough to block light completely, but they soften it, bending and scattering particles so subtly that the effect becomes part of the universe's serene background. The presence of dust makes the galaxy feel lived in, textured, like a quiet home filled with soft air rather than an empty void. Even in intergalactic space, those wide expanses between galaxies, small amounts of dust float gently, carried outward by ancient events long past, creating a faint veil that stretches across distances so enormous they are almost beyond imagining. This dust does not gather or settle quickly. It simply drifts, suspended in a peaceful slowness that feels like the universe breathing out. When I imagine myself floating through one of these dust-rich regions, I picture the particles moving around me with almost no sound, no resistance, no urgency. They drift in currents that are so faint they cannot be felt, swirling softly in patterns shaped by forces too gentle for human senses to detect. The light from nearby stars would appear muted, softened by the haze, creating an atmosphere that feels like twilight stretched across millions of miles. I imagine the dust grains turning slowly as they float, catching tiny hints of starlight on their surfaces, glowing faintly for a moment before letting the light pass on. The movement of dust would be slow enough to feel timeless, as if everything is suspended in a peaceful pause, allowing thoughts to drift without weight, without pressure, without any need to hurry. One of the most comforting things about cosmic dust is that it carries the building blocks of life. Within these tiny grains are elements like carbon, oxygen, iron, and nitrogen materials that are essential for forming the molecules that eventually become part of planets, oceans, air, and living beings. The dust that drifts through the galaxy today will someday be part of new worlds, new systems, new places where life might quietly emerge. To think of dust in this way is to picture the universe planting seeds everywhere, scattering them softly across its vast expanse, letting them drift freely until they find the right conditions to settle and grow. It is a slow, gentle process, with no urgency, no deadlines, only an enduring patience that feels deeply peaceful. Even the way dust collects in the rings of planets has a calming elegance. Around worlds like Saturn, thin bands of particles some no larger than grains of dust circle the planet in gentle, unbroken arcs. From afar, these rings look solid and sharp, but up close they are soft, drifting clouds of tiny pieces of ice and rock moving in smooth, coordinated orbits. The motion of these particles is steady and predictable, forming patterns that remain stable for long stretches of time. Imagining these rings glowing softly in the faint light of distant stars, slowly circling their worlds in quiet harmony, gives me a sense of peace that settles deep within me. Cosmic dust also plays a part in shaping the soft glow of the night sky on Earth. When sunlight catches dust in the inner solar system, it creates a gentle brightness called zodiacal light or faint triangular glow, visible just after sunset or before sunrise in dark, clear skies. This glow is not bright or flashy. It is tender, subtle, a kind of cosmic whisper that reminds us we are surrounded by quiet particles drifting between the planets. Seeing it can feel like witnessing the soft breath of the universe itself. A peaceful reminder that we are part of a much larger, slower rhythm. And so, when I think about cosmic dust, its tiny size, its quiet movements, its role in shaping worlds and softening starlight, find myself relaxing into a deeper sense of calm. Dust does not hurry. It does not force anything. It simply exists, drifts, gathers, settles, and transforms over long ages, contributing gently to the universe's slow unfolding. In its quiet presence, I feel a reflection of my own need for softness, stillness, and gentle rhythms. Cosmic dust tells me that even the smallest things can have deep significance, and that even the vastness of space is filled with quiet, peaceful motions that continue endlessly, soothingly, with no need for haste. Asterisk, there are nights when I let my mind wander into the gentle, almost weightless idea of cosmic time, and as I do, I feel every part of me settling into a slower rhythm, a calmer breath, a softer awareness of the world around me. Cosmic time does not move like the time we measure in hours and minutes. It drifts, expands, stretches, and unfolds with a patience so vast that it feels like a quiet ocean without waves. A stillness that has existed long before anything else and will continue long after everything familiar has changed. When I imagine cosmic time, I picture it as a soft, continuous thread running through every moment of the universe, from the earliest whisper of existence, when everything was warm and bright and impossibly young, to the cool, spacious quiet of the present, where galaxies have had billions of years to drift into their gentle shapes. Thinking about time in this way makes me feel as though I am floating beside it rather than trying to keep up with it, as though I am allowed to slow my thoughts until they match the universe's own calm, unhurried pace. The beginning of cosmic time, as scientists understand it, was not a sudden explosion in the dramatic sense, but rather a smooth, rapid expansion, quiet unfolding that filled the early universe with warmth and light. If I imagine that moment not as noise, but as a soft brightening, a gentle swelling of space itself, it becomes surprisingly peaceful. Everything that exists today, every star, every particle, every drifting cloud of gas, every grain of dust, every planet, and every spark of life began in that glowing, expanding field. And as the universe grew, the light within it stretched into longer, softer waves, cooling the cosmos into a calm darkness dotted slowly with the first stars. These earliest stars formed more than 13 billion years ago, yet when I think of them, I imagine their appearance as a quiet flickering rather than a sudden burst, a gentle beginning of illumination in a universe that had been dimming and settling into a serene, spacious calm. Even though these first stars were much larger and brighter than those we see today, the scale of cosmic time makes their formation feel smooth, like a gentle turning of a page rather than a sudden change. As cosmic time continued to flow, galaxies began to form huge gatherings of stars that took hundreds of millions of years to settle into stable shapes. But time in the universe doesn't rush these transformations. Every movement, every shift, every subtle merging takes so long that the changes feel like slow tides rather than sudden events. When I imagine these ages passing, I see space filled with drifting glow. The early galaxies moving closer, gathering material, slowly forming spirals or ellipses without urgency. Cosmic time does not demand progress. It allows everything to unfold in its own unhurried way. This patience of the universe feels deeply soothing, because it reminds me that nothing in nature is truly instantaneous. Everything has room to grow gently, change slowly, and find its shape without pressure. One of the most calming thoughts about cosmic time is how it stretches far beyond anything human experience can measure directly. A single human life is fleeting compared to the life of a star, which may burn quietly for billions of years before releasing its outer layers in a slow, cooling wave. Imagine a star that shines steadily for such an immense span of time that entire species might emerge and vanish elsewhere in the cosmos without the star's brightness changing in any noticeable way. The star does not hurry through its phases. It glows gently, steadily, with a calm persistence that feels almost timeless. Even when it begins to shift in its final stages, the process unfolds over long periods: soft expansions, slow contractions, gradual cooling, and quiet releases of material that will drift through space as part of the next chapter in the universe's journey. Thinking of stars in this way helps me understand that cosmic time is not about beginnings and endings, but about long, unbroken flows. Cosmic time also stretches into the future with a quiet certainty. The universe continues to expand, carrying galaxies farther apart at a pace so gentle that it cannot be felt moment by moment. Yet over billions of years, this expansion becomes clear, like a breath that has been drawn in for eons and continues to rise with a steady calm. Imagining the future of the universe is like imagining a horizon made of soft, endless twilight. Stars will continue to form in some regions, even as older stars fade. Galaxies may drift farther apart, becoming small islands of light separated by growing stretches of darkness. But even this process feels peaceful. It is not a sudden dimming, not a sharp transition, but a slow, gradual unfolding that gives every star, every cloud of gas, every drifting particle time to follow its quiet path. When I think about cosmic time reaching backward into the earliest moments, I imagine ancient light still traveling through the universe, light that began its journey billions of years ago, long before the earth formed, long before the sun began to shine. This ancient light has not rushed. It has traveled at the same steady pace since its beginning, passing by galaxies that formed and changed over ages. And now, after such a long and gentle journey, some of that light reaches us, carrying with it a soft echo of the universe's earliest times. This thought is deeply comforting to me. It reminds me that even the faintest glimmer can travel immense distances, and that even the smallest trace of the past can linger across ages in a way that feels peaceful and enduring. Cosmic time also reveals itself in the way stars and planets age. Planets cool slowly over billions of years, their surfaces changing subtly as tiny details shift in ways too slow for any single being to witness directly. Moons drift gradually away from their parent planets, moving only centimeters per year. Yet, over long ages, this gentle movement becomes meaningful. Even the rings around planets like Saturn evolve slowly, their particles drifting, colliding softly, spreading in delicate patterns that change almost imperceptibly over long periods. These slow motions make the universe feel like a peaceful place where nothing needs to hurry, because everything has time, more time than any mind can truly hold. There is something calming in knowing that time stretches evenly through the universe, touching everything with the same gentle continuity. Whether it is the lifespan of a star, the drift of a galaxy, the cooling of a planet, or the quiet journey of a particle of dust, Every process unfolds across a background of time that never rushes, never pushes, never demands. It simply flows, like a soft current beneath everything that exists. When I picture this current, I imagine it as a quiet hum or a soft glow, steady and unwavering. A presence that reminds me that there is no need to measure my life against anything hurried or pressured. Cosmic time invites me to slow down, to breathe more softly, to recognize that gentle rhythms can guide me just as naturally as they guide the stars. Even the farthest future of the universe, though mysterious, feels peaceful when I picture it through the lens of cosmic time. Stars will eventually fade, galaxies may drift beyond view, and the universe may grow cooler and quieter with each passing epoch. Yet none of these changes feel jarring or abrupt. They are slow, gentle shifts in the long breath of the cosmos' natural steps in an unfolding that has always moved at the calmest pace imaginable. This vision of a distant, quiet future where everything softens into stillness feels soothing to me. It makes the universe feel like a place where change is never rushed, where time wraps everything in a calm embrace that lasts longer than any star, any galaxy, any world. And so when I let myself drift into the idea of cosmic time, I feel a sense of deep relaxation wash over me. I imagine the universe not as a place of chaos or urgency, but as a place where everything moves gently, changes slowly, and exists across ages with quiet dignity. Cosmic time reminds me that there is room for softness in every process, room for patience in every transformation, room for quiet in every moment. It teaches me that I can move at my own pace, breathe in my own rhythm, and trust that life unfolds gently, just as the universe unfolds gently around us. There are moments when I let my thoughts drift far beyond anything familiar, reaching gently toward the idea of the cosmic horizon, the soft boundary of what we can see, the quiet edge of the visible universe. It is not a hard border, not a wall or a limit that stops anything from moving. Rather, it is a gentle veil woven from distance and time, a place where light has been traveling toward us since the beginning yet has not had long enough to arrive. I like to imagine this horizon not as something unreachable, but as something peaceful, an ever-expanding circle of quiet light that deepens and softens as the universe continues its slow, steady growth. When I focus on it, I find myself breathing a little slower, as though my own rhythm is learning from the patience of that distant boundary. The cosmic horizon exists because the universe has only had so much time to shine its light toward us. Even though light travels extremely fast, the vastness of space means that only a certain region has been able to share its glow with us since the earliest days. Everything beyond that region is simply too far, its light still drifting through space, quiet and steady, on a journey that will take ages more before it can reach us. This thought feels surprisingly gentle to me because it reminds me that even the universe's grandest distances are filled with patient motion rather than emptiness or urgency. There is no rush for that distant light to arrive. It moves according to the calm pace set by the universe itself. A reminder that not all journeys need to be immediate to be meaningful. The horizon is always growing, expanding softly outward as more and more ancient light finally reaches us. Every moment adds a tiny, delicate layer to the visible universe, like a slow unfolding of a deep, cosmic flower. It is strange and soothing to think that while we rest, while we sleep, while we dream, the horizon continues its quiet work, gently revealing more of the universe to our view. This expansion does not feel fast or dramatic. It feels like a soft breath that has been rising since the earliest times, stretching the fabric of space little by little with a patience that spans billions of years. Whenever I imagine this subtle unfolding, I feel my mind soften, as though the distance between the present moment and cosmic time becomes lighter and easier to carry. Beyond the horizon lies everything the universe contains. Even if we cannot see it, galaxies drifting in slow spirals, stars glowing softly in their ancient rhythms, clouds of gentle gas forming new stars over ages, and clusters of galaxies moving with quiet persistence through vast stretches of space. Even though these distant places are invisible to us right now, they still exist, following their calm cycles without needing to be witnessed. There is something comforting in knowing that the universe continues its slow, graceful dance even in regions we cannot observe. It reminds me that the world does not depend on our awareness to unfold in peaceful, steady patterns. There is always more beyond what we can see, always more gently moving through the darkness, always more waiting in the quiet spaces beyond the reach of our instruments. As the universe expands, galaxies drift away from one another, not because they are moving through space quickly, but because space itself is stretching beneath them. This expansion is one of the softest, most natural motions imaginable. It happens evenly everywhere, like a gentle rise in a calm tide. Even though the distances between galaxies grow over time, this process does not feel dramatic. It feels like a quiet separation, a gradual widening of space that gives everything in the universe room to breathe. When I think about galaxies gliding apart in this slow, measured way, I feel the same softness inside myself, as though each thought has been given a little extra space to drift peacefully without pressure. The cosmic horizon also carries the echo of ancient light, what scientists call the cosmic microwave background, which is the oldest light in the universe. This faint glow comes from a time when the universe was still warm and filled with a smooth, gentle brightness. Even though billions of years have passed since then, that light continues to travel, stretching into longer and softer wavelengths. It fills the entire cosmos with a quiet, even glow, a background warmth so subtle that it is almost like a cosmic whisper. When I imagine this ancient light surrounding everything, I feel as though I am wrapped in a soft blanket that has existed since the beginning of time itself. It is a reminder that the universe carries its memories gently, allowing them to drift across ages and distances without rushing or fading completely away. Thinking about the far future of the horizon also brings a sense of calm. As the universe continues to expand, the horizon will grow larger, revealing new regions of space to us, yet at the same time, some distant galaxies will drift away faster than their light can reach us. This means that over extremely long periods, the night sky may gradually become quieter, with fewer galaxies visible from any one point. But even this gentle dimming does not feel sad or alarming. It feels like the soft closing of a day after a long journey, a calm transition into a quieter phase of the cosmos. The universe will still be full of motion, full of warmth, full of gentle transformations, but the visible region may shrink in subtle ways. And there is beauty in that too, because even in the quietest future, the universe will continue to carry the memories of its long, peaceful history. The horizon reminds me that the universe is always larger than I can imagine, always more spacious than any thought or feeling I hold. It reminds me that life can feel small in comparison, yet that smallness is not a burden. It is a kind of relief. I do not need to know everything, or see everything, or understand every detail. The horizon itself is a soft boundary that keeps the infinite at a gentle distance. showing only what has calmly reached us, while allowing the rest to remain in patient darkness. This makes the universe feel safe, comforting, and deeply serene, like a vast ocean that stretches into mist, where the unknown is not frightening but peaceful and quiet. Sometimes, when I lie awake at night, I imagine drifting toward that far horizon, not in a physical way, but in a quiet thought that lets me float above the everyday world. I picture myself gliding through the calm darkness between stars, where light moves like a soft breeze and clouds of dust shimmer faintly in the dim glow of distant suns. I imagine the horizon expanding gently around me, revealing more of the universe's soft patterns with every calm breath. There is no urgency in this drifting, no sense of destination. There is only movement through a space that feels endless and soothing. A space where every part of the journey is peaceful. The cosmic horizon represents the limit of what we can see, but it also represents the beginning of what we can imagine. Everything beyond it remains a quiet mystery, a region of soft possibilities. Perhaps there are galaxies shaped in ways we have never thought of, stars glowing with colors we have never witnessed, or planets drifting in orbits that unfold over millions of years in serene isolation. Even though we cannot observe these distant regions, they exist with complete calmness, following the same gentle rhythms as the parts of the universe we know. The horizon is not a boundary of existence, is simply a boundary of vision. Beyond it, the universe continues in all its softness, and so, when my thoughts drift to the cosmic horizon, I feel as though I am touching a very quiet truth, that the universe is vast, patient, and endlessly calm. Its motion is gentle. Its rhythms are slow. Its light travels at a constant, serene pace. And its horizon grows with each passing moment in a silent, graceful expansion that requires no effort, no noise, no urgency. The horizon is a reminder that even the grandest scales of existence follow peaceful patterns. It reminds me that I, too, can embrace a softer pace, a slower breath, a gentler awareness of the world around me. In this calm reflection, the horizon becomes more than a distant boundary. It becomes a symbol of quiet continuity, an invitation to let go of hurry, and a reminder that even the unknown can be soothing when seen through the gentle lens of cosmic time. And as I let this thought settle, I feel myself drifting into a deeper stillness, carried softly by the quiet rhythms of the universe itself. This is the final chapter. May its calm stay with you as long as you need it.